Hello, and welcome to Stories Without Borders, a podcast by Nyan Pitara. This is a space where stories travel across countries, cultures, and hearts. In every episode, we meet someone who has lived in the different part of the world, listening to their experiences, discovering new cultures, and hearing a traditional folk tale from that place. Together, we reflect, imagine, and sometimes even change the ending of the story. So find a comfortable spot, open your imagination, and join us as we explore the world, one story at a time. On this episode of Stories Without Borders, we have with us Apoorv Terwadkar, who is a mechanical engineering graduate and who has worked in startups for 3 years. He is currently pursuing an MBA in Japan on a fully paid scholarship. His many interests include consuming large quantities of movies, shows, and books, writing poetry, short stories, and articles. He also likes making videos, learning languages, and finally, someone who has always looked for backups and alternatives. Apurva is a problem solver at heart. We're so glad to have him on this episode. Starting with where are you currently? What has taken you what took you to this particular country, and how long are you there for? What are the plans?
Okay. So as of now, currently I'm in Japan. Specifically, right now I'm in Tokyo, the prefecture. So, like in India, we have states. In Japan, we have prefectures. So I'm in Tokyo prefecture. Specifically, I'm at Ikebukuro station right now. I came here specifically because I wanted to study management. So I'm doing my 2 year MBA in Niigata Prefecture in Minami Uonuma City. It's a college called International University of Japan or Kokusai Daigaku. And the reason I chose to come here specifically was over the course of my engineering, I got really into the management side of things. Specifically, when I was the team manager for the Formula Student Team. And especially during that time, I noticed that I had an interest in this kind of stuff. And the more I started exploring how people did management and how what was the best way to do it, I started discovering these terminologies, the Kanban board or Kaizen or the 5S method, Six Sigma, all of this, lean manufacturing. And the more I dug into it, the more I realized it all traces its roots back to Japan. In fact, the Toyota production system, TPS, which is one of the most efficient automobile manufacturing methods, is also Japanese. So I was like, this might as well learn from the people who came up with all of this. So yeah, that's essentially it.
That that's very interesting. If we could know how so when did you go to Japan, and how has life there surprised you? I know you have also studied Japanese for a long time, so I am assuming that language was not a barrier. And however, accents and the way you talk, especially when you're a native, that is always going to be different. So was that a huge difference when you first landed in Japan, and how was that entire experience like?
That's actually a good question. So um, after I arrived, especially the learning of language there, as much as I can try, as you said, you're never going to be a native. And so you need to be. So this is one thing I noticed is a lot of the Central India languages have common bases in the way the languages work. So Marathi, for example, which is my mother tongue and your mother tongue as well. So we share a lot of common bases with Japanese language in terms of grammar. And so for me, it was comparatively easier to understand the grammatical stuff. But the moment you start getting into the nitty gritty, it becomes a bit more tough. And then there's the pronunciations. So, to give you the short version of this, it was tough. Immediately after landing, the first thing I noticed was I have good pronunciation as told to me by my Japanese sensei over here right now. But it's still not enough because it's like, say for example, if a random white guy drops into Maharashtra somewhere and starts speaking good Marathi, but still you're listening to this guy speak Marathi and he's a white guy, and you're like, okay, I get what he's saying, but at the same time, it's kind of tough to follow because you're still kind of struggling with this concept of a foreigner speaking a language that you know.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it happens.
Let's just jump right into the segment of story time. So, can we
Yeah,
know what story you're going to share with us today? Where did you first hear the story?
yeah.
Was it when you were learning Japanese in India, from your peers in Japan, or while scrolling social media? What was it like?
So the story is about this character called Momotaro. Uh, he's like the best way to describe him is like the peach boy. So it's a like so this okay. I'll tell you the story quickly. So the idea is that once upon a time, an old woman found like she was washing her clothes in a river and she found a giant peach floating downstream. And then she took the peach home, and just as she was about to cut it open, they find that the peach split open and a baby boy popped out. And so they named him Momotaro because Momo means peach in Japanese.
Okay.
And so he was the peach boy. So then his stories and stuff he did because the older couple did not have children up until that point. And so for them, this was their first son. And so it's a story of like there's a lot of folk tales about Momotaro himself. There's a lot of stories of him finding new friends and stuff. Specifically, there's like him meeting some animal friends and stuff. But what I really love was that the core essence of the story is that you basically have this old couple who wanted to be parents, could not be, and then one day randomly happened upon a child that they took in as their own. And in today's context, even though it was not intended to be for that, in today's context, it is pretty important because they have a declining population as well. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing where it's like you don't have kids, but then you happen upon a child, right? So
Yes.
it's kind of nice in that sense. Sorry, what was the second question?
Oh, where did you first hear the story?
Many sources actually. So my sensei back in India, my sensei had mentioned Momotaro a few times. And then when I was searching it up, I saw the story as well. And in a few anime as well, it pops up because it's a pretty popular folk tale. And
Okay.
so you hear people referencing this.
Do you think so? I'm Of course, Momotaro is a very important character in Japanese culture. So the morals of the stories that he's a part of, do you see Japanese people around you sort of imbibing these morals in their daily life? And what are these morals, if you could talk about a few?
So that is a tough question to answer because you have so the time when this folk tale came into being was a very different time. And so you see a stark contrast in the kind of values being presented by the, let's say, active population, the active youth of now versus then. But
Right.
you do see a bit of that where it's like the value of you have something and you need to preserve it
Mm-hmm.
is present. Like in daily life, just on a regular basis, you see, like if you see something that's fallen, like there's a lot of folklore and mythology about Japan life, generally speaking.
Yes.
But you see a lot of it is actually true. Like I'm at a station, I'm running towards a place. I just randomly see something has fallen down on the stairs. The first instinct I used to have is to just ignore it.
Right.
Now, because of me seeing everybody doing this, my first instinct now is to pick it up and put it somewhere on the other side or return it to lost and found. Because I know somebody's going to come looking for it and I want them to find it.
Yeah.
And just other people respecting them, respecting their ownership of something, and respecting your own life. Like there is uh, crime here, of course, but you still find that the most common crime is umbrellas because people forget their umbrellas back at home. So they'll pick up your umbrella. They'll leave a note sometimes saying, "I'm sorry, I took your umbrella." Or there is this, I forget what it's, yeah, the law of equivalent exchange is what popular internet slang calls it, where if you pick up my umbrella, I'll pick up somebody else's umbrella, and in the end, somebody will get their umbrella back or some other umbrella
Okay.
because they all have, yeah, so it's like that. So it's really interesting and fascinating. So this does kind of, yeah.
So, when you were narrating the story, one thing that popped into my head was that sometimes in life, you long for something or you keep hoping that something happens, but not necessarily that it will happen at the time that you want it to. But someday, maybe in the future, when you're least expecting it, that thing might happen. So, with this idea, let's say, has anything in your life perhaps happened that you least expected it to happen, but and you longed for it to happen before, but when you got it, you were happy, excited, or what was that? What was the feeling then?
I mean, the most recent example of this was literally this, me being in Japan. I've been kind of working towards this for over 5 years, slowly, steadily, somehow trying to make time. And it is, I still don't believe, it's been what, 4 months now. I still do not believe truly that I am in Japan. And I'm seeing these things that I've been looking at from like a third party perspective. The shows I've watched, I see the actual landmarks in front of me. And I'm like, in my wildest imagination, I did not expect not only to come to Japan, but to come to Japan to learn management and be here on a scholarship. I had not expected to get ad- admitted into a university when I was applying. And they gave me a scholarship. And for me, that is amazing. So it is perfectly apt in this situation.
So I think this story makes a lot of, maybe it's very close to your heart because you can relate to it so well.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of our, listeners might, take away this moral that even if something you don't get the results immediately or you
Yeah.
don't get what you want immediately,
Yeah.
God, like life has plans for you, and somewhere down the line, what you deserve, you will surely get.
I mean, I I would like to think that that is the model because like Momotaro, for example, the many folk tales it has like unity is strength, it has courage against bullies and all of these stuff as well. But this is one thing that I would like to take, as you said, which is yeah, if you keep working at it, at some point, maybe not a boy inside a peach, but at least you can go to Japan.
Yeah,
So yeah,
sure. Yeah, definitely. Um, because he was raised by um, older people, let's say people maybe
yeah,
so how do you think his life would be? Because the age gap between his parents, quote unquote, and Momotaro himself was such a
yeah,
wide, such a wide age
yeah,
gap. Because as young people, when you have disagreements with your parents, and of
yeah.
course disagreements with your grandparents. So to be raised by people of that age, how do you think life would be for Momotaro?
These are fascinating thought experiments. Um, so he is a very young baby when he's adopted, and they are an elderly couple. So it is a literal leap of generations.
Yeah,
I would think it would be pretty tough, like initially, especially if he is interacting with other people of his age, other kids of his age. He notices that the values that their parents have are very different from what his parents have because his
yeah,
parents are essentially what their grandparents would be. So
exactly.
you have that generational gap. You have a much more stricter sense of value and principles and traditions. And so it would be a bit more strict. But I feel like he would be probably one of those people who would essentially end up being like the The point guy, the principal guy in some institution or organization, because he's so strictly disciplined and so well put together because of his parents, that he would be an impossible goal to attain. Like being him would be like the ideal guy. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And do you think that because he was raised by people who are older and because they have such strict principles and values about life, and they sort of imbibe it in Momotaro, is that I'm assuming he's a hero in all these folk tales. Am I right?
Yes, he's mildly flawed because he's a child, but
Okay.
yes, he's the main character. Yes.
Yes. So, do you think that those strict values, those principles, that discipline that he has because of his parents, i- is that a reason why? Is that a is that part of the reason why he is a hero?
Um, I'll be honest. I don't think it's that deep because if you again if you think about it, it is a very random concept. And there's
Mm.
just this beach boy. So, but again, as is with most art, you end up having like so many of these folktales were not made by the original author. A
Yeah.
lot of this stuff was made later,
Okay.
and so the later stories do definitely have a more heroic tinge to them. Heroic
Mm.
in the sense that he doesn't do a lot of flawed stuff. But I do appreciate that a lot of Japanese stories, generally speaking, the main character is not flawless. Like take Shinchan for example.
Yeah.
Shinchan as a character is wild. Like
Yes.
Indian version of Shinchan is not the same as the one in Japan.
Okay.
We have a censored version of a kid's show. Let that sink in. Okay. So Chinchan is an insane character, and the fact that he's shown to kids, the show is about Shinchan, but he's an example of what not to be,
Yeah.
like how not to be as a kid. But
Okay.
it's something you can enjoy. So yeah, that's I think that could be
Okay. Anything else that you want to tell our listeners, something that they might take away
about Japan in general.
about anything, about your experiences there, about this story, about anything, any random thought.
Uh, I I would actually like to just specify because I've been here now and I have the first-hand experience. It is an example of a society that thrives on doing your part well. And it is wondrous. The experience is genuinely insane. You see people actually doing their job. You see people actually trying to contribute to society. You see people trying to help. And we have that as well. Like back in India as well, we have this helpful wala nature. But when you come here, you see like the ideal vision of this helpfulness. And then you realize, like I felt like I try to be as helpful as possible. I usually bend over backwards when I'm like just trying to help people, and I will like, at a cost to myself. And yet I see these people do that multiple times and still survive. And these people are just amazing, incredible people, and they are people, but so we should not hold them up on a pedestal. We should treat them as people and humans and be aware that we are outsiders in this society, and we should be aware that they have rules that we should follow because that is a current ongoing issue. So please, like if by accident you have listeners or even you guys go to another country, let alone in Japan, any other country, try to be as thoughtful about it because it is a society different from ours, different from the way it works. And so it is very important that we try to nurture and preserve in the context of this conversation the things that we are getting a chance to experience. So yeah.
Definitely. And I think one more thing that we can like take away as listeners is always doing your part because, more often than not, people just raise their hands and say, that's not my job. I'm not going to do it. I've done my part. That's where my responsibilities end. But,
Yeah.
making sure that you end your responsibility well, or
Yeah.
simple as not throwing the wrapper on the street, because that's not my job.
Yeah.
Somebody else will clean it up.
Absolutely.
Simple as that, or helping your mother in the kitchen when she's doing the dishes. Saying, when you as a child say that, oh, that's not my job, that's my mom's job.
Mm. Yeah.
We all can take away that you know uh, maybe that one extra step, or taking that one extra leap, that is going to make somebody else's day better, or that is going to make somebody else's life better, and that action will come back to you in some way or the other, and your
Absolutely.
your
Understood.
tasks will be made simple, perhaps.
Absolutely. Just doing, as you said, one extra step from your end reduces maybe half a step for somebody else, but that half step matters quite a bit.
Thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a wonderful chat. As much as we have enjoyed it, I'm sure all the listeners are going to enjoy it as well. Uh, Thank you so much. I hope you have an amazing day. And with that, we come to the end of today's podcast. Stories remind us that even though our languages, places, and customs may be different, our feelings and values are often the same. Thank you for listening, imagining, and reflecting with us. Until next time, keep your hearts curious, your minds open, and your love for stories alive. This is Stories Without Borders by Nyan Pitara.